The black stone platform stood in the center of the city square, and thousands of dragon people gathered around it. Their scales glittered in the red sunlight of Drakkar Prime, a world of volcanoes and burning deserts. Some had bright red scales, others had deep purple or dark green. All of them had powerful wings folded against their backs and sharp horns curving from their heads. They were the Drakai, the most powerful species in the galaxy. And they knew it. On the platform, a small figure knelt with his hands bound behind his back. Taemin was only 12 years old, but he already knew what it meant to be different. His wings were twisted and small, barely reaching past his shoulders. His horns were stumps, not the proud curves that other Drakai children had. His scales were dull brown instead of the brilliant colors that marked pure bloodlines. From the moment he was born, everyone said he was cursed. His own family had abandoned him to the streets. Now, the council had decided he should die. They said his existence insulted the pride of the Drakai Empire. They said malformed children brought shame to their species. The crowd agreed loudly, shouting insults and throwing stones that clattered against the platform. 3 figures sat on high chairs overlooking the scene. Executor Vrath had crimson scales covered in battle scars. He was a warrior who had conquered 20 worlds for the Empire. High Scholar Kyria had elegant silver scales and cold eyes that missed nothing. Trade Minister Ulrak was fat and lazy, caring only about money. Together, they ruled this world in the name of the distant emperor. Vrath stood up and raised his hand. The crowd fell silent. He pulled out a massive sword that glowed with heat, forged in the heart of a volcano. This malformed child has no place in our empire, he declared. Today, we cleanse our world of weakness. Taemin kept his eyes on the ground. He had stopped crying days ago. What was the point? Nobody would help him. Nobody ever had. Then someone pushed through the crowd. Wait, please wait. The voice was strange, softer than Drakai voices. The crowd parted in confusion, and a human stumbled onto the platform. His name was Deho. And he was a merchant who sold fabrics and metals between the human colonies and Drakai worlds. He had lived on Drakkar Prime for 5 years, always keeping his head down, always being respectful. Humans were considered weak, barely worth noticing. They had no scales, no wings, no natural weapons. Most Drakai thought humans were lucky to be allowed to exist at all. But now Deho stood between the executioner and the boy, his arms spread wide. He said again, breathing hard, "He's just a child. Whatever his crime, this is wrong." The crowd exploded with rage. How dare a human interfere? How dare this weak creature question Drakai law? Vrath's eyes burned with anger. "Human, you forget your place. Step aside or die with him." "I can't do that," Deho said. His voice shook, but he didn't move. "I won't stand here and watch a child be killed for being born different." Kyria leaned forward, studying the human with curious eyes. "You would die for a Drakai child? Your species has no connection to ours. This makes no sense." "Where I come from," Deho said, "we believe every child deserves a chance to live. We protect the weak, not kill them." The crowd laughed. Protect the weak? What foolishness was this? The strong ruled the universe. That was the natural order. The weak deserved nothing. Ulrak waved his hand dismissively. "Kill them both. This waste of time bores me." Vrath lifted his sword high. The blade came down fast, aimed at Deho's neck. Deho closed his eyes, knowing he couldn't dodge it. At least he tried. At least he stood for something. But the blade never reached him. A brilliant golden light exploded from Taemin's chest. The boy screamed as ancient symbols appeared on his skin, glowing like liquid fire. The symbols were old. Older than the Empire. Written in a language that hadn't been spoken in 3,000 years. The light grew brighter and brighter, until everyone had to look away. The executioner's sword hit the light, and shattered into 1,000 pieces. Metal fragments rained across the platform. Vrath stumbled backward, his eyes wide with shock. The light faded slowly. Taman collapsed forward, gasping. The glowing symbols remained on his arms, his chest, his face. They pulsed with power that everyone could feel in their bones. Kyria stood up suddenly, her face pale. "No," she whispered. "It cannot be. Those marks, those are the royal seals. The marks of the Dragon Queens." The crowd fell absolutely silent. Even the wind seemed to stop. "The Dragon Queens are extinct," Vrath said, but his voice wavered. "They died 3,000 years ago. There are no more royal bloodlines." "I thought so too," Kyria said. She walked slowly to the edge of the platform, staring at Taman. "But those marks cannot be faked. They appear only on those who carry the Queen's blood. This child, this malformed, abandoned child, carries the most powerful bloodline in our history." The Dragon Queens had ruled the Drakai Empire during its golden age. They were bigger, stronger, and wiser than any Drakai who came after. Their power shaped worlds. Their fire could melt starships. But they had been assassinated in a brutal civil war when the warrior caste seized control. Without the queens, the Drakai had slowly grown weaker over the centuries, though they never admitted it. And now, one of the lost queens had returned in the form of a small, broken boy that everyone wanted to kill. Deho didn't understand what was happening, but he saw his chance. While everyone stood frozen in shock, he ran to Taman and pulled the boy to his feet. "Can you walk?" he asked quickly. Taman nodded weakly, his eyes unfocused. The power had drained him. "Then we're leaving," Deho said. He wrapped an arm around the boy to support him. "Stop them!" Vrath roared, finally recovering. "Seal the city. Nobody leaves." But Deho had already reached into his coat and pressed a hidden button. A smuggler's emergency beacon. Illegal, but effective. Somewhere in the city, his backup plan activated. Guards rushed the platform from all sides. Deho pulled Taman toward the edge. "Trust me, kid," he said. "I've gotten out of worse situations." That was a lie. But Taman didn't need to know that. They jumped off the platform just as the guards reached them. The crowd scattered as they landed and ran. Behind them, Vrath was screaming orders. The entire city guard mobilized. Alarms blared from every tower. Deho pulled Taman through narrow streets and into an alley he'd memorized for emergencies. His heart pounded. His mind raced. What had he just done? Assassins for intensive to and slash. He'd saved a child, yes. But now, the entire Drakai Empire would hunt them. That boy carried something more valuable than all the treasures in the galaxy. "Why?" Taman gasped as they ran. "Why did you save me?" "Because someone had to," Deho said simply. "But I'm nothing. I'm cursed. You're a kid," Deho interrupted. "That's all that matters." Behind them, the sound of wings filled the air. The hunters were coming. The real chase was about to begin. But for the first time in his life, Taman wasn't alone. For the first time, someone thought he deserved to live. And that changed everything. The streets of Ember's Fall twisted like a maze. Deho knew most of them, from his 5 years of trading in the city. But he'd never run through them this fast before. Taman stumbled beside him, still weak from whatever had happened on the platform. Those golden marks on his skin continued to glow faintly, making them easy to spot in the shadowy alleys. "We need to cover those marks," Deho said, pulling off his jacket and wrapping it around Taman's shoulders. "Pull the hood up. Don't let anyone see your face." Behind them, the sounds of pursuit grew louder. Wings beat the air. Soldiers shouted to each other across rooftops. The Drakai could fly, which gave them a huge advantage in a chase. Deho's only hope was to stay in the narrow spaces where wings couldn't spread. They ducked into an old foundry, a place where metal workers shaped tools and weapons. The heat hit them like a wall. Massive furnaces roared, and Drakai workers hammered at glowing metal. A few looked up as Deho and Taman ran past, but in the noise and chaos, nobody stopped them. "Where are we going?" Taman asked, coughing from the smoke. "The docks," Deho said. "I have a friend there, someone who owes me a favor." They burst out the other side of the foundry into a marketplace. Stalls sold everything from fruit grown in underground gardens to weapons forged from volcanic rock. Deho grabbed Taman's hand and pulled him into the crowd, trying to blend in. But it was hard for a human and a Drakai child to stay invisible together. A shout came from behind. "There! The human and the boy!" The crowd scattered as three figures landed in the middle of the marketplace. These weren't ordinary guards. They were hunters, the elite soldiers that the council only sent after the most important targets. The first was Korin, a tracker with orange scales and eyes that could see heat. He pointed straight at Deho and Taman through the crowd. "I have them." The second was Myong, a female Drakai with black scales that seemed to absorb light. She moved like smoke, silent and deadly. Knives glinted in her hands. The third was Vex, a massive warrior in heavy armor. He didn't need weapons. His fists could break stone. "The council wants the boy alive," Korin called out. "But the human is expendable." Deho pushed Taman toward a side street. "Run. Don't stop, no matter what happens." "But..." "Run." Taman ran. Myong tried to follow him, but Deho grabbed a cart full of fruit and shoved it into her path. She leaped over it easily, but the delay gave Taman a few precious seconds. Vex charged at Deho like a bull. Deho waited until the last moment, then rolled aside. Vex crashed through a stall, sending wood and fabric flying. The warrior roared in anger. Deho had been a soldier once, before he became a merchant. He'd fought in border wars between human colonies. He knew how to fight, how to survive. But these weren't human opponents. These were Drakai, stronger and faster than any human could ever be. Korin circled around, cutting off his escape route. "You cannot win, human. Surrender." "Not today," Deho said, and threw a handful of spice powder from a nearby stall into Korin's face. The tracker screamed, clawing at his eyes. Deho ran after Tamin. He found the boy hiding in an abandoned warehouse, pressed against a wall, breathing hard. "Good. You're safe. Now we need to..." Myung dropped from the ceiling between them. She moved so fast that Deho barely saw her. One moment she was above them. The next her knife was at his throat. "End of the chase," she said softly. Taman's eyes went wide with fear. "Please, don't hurt him. The council doesn't want him hurt," Myung said. "They want him dead. You, child, are coming with us." She raised her other knife, ready to stab Deho through the heart. Taman screamed, "No!" and the world exploded with golden fire. The flames erupted from Taman's mouth, not the normal red and orange fire that Drakai breathed, but brilliant gold that burned with ancient power. Myung barely had time to throw herself backward. The fire melted the floor where she had been standing, the warehouse filled with smoke. Deho grabbed Taman and ran through a hole in the wall. Behind them, he heard Myung coughing and cursing. "What was that?" Taman asked, terrified. "What's happening to me?" "I don't know," Deho admitted. "But right now it's keeping us alive. Come on." They reached the docks as the sun began to set. The sky turned deep red, and the city's alarm still wailed. Ships of all sizes rested on landing pads, preparing for departure or arriving from distant worlds. Deho led Taman to a small, beaten-up cargo ship called the Windrunner. It had seen better days, covered in patches and repairs, but Deho knew it was fast. A man stood at the loading ramp, checking cargo containers. His name was Kijun, a human smuggler who moved illegal goods between systems. He had gray hair and scars on his face from too many close calls. "Kijun," Deho called. "I'm calling in that favor." Kijun looked up, saw Deho and Taman, and his expression darkened. Deho, what have you gotten yourself into? No time to explain. We need to leave. Now. I don't take Drakai passengers, Kijun said flatly. Too much trouble. Taemin's hood slipped back, revealing the golden marks on his face. Kijun's eyes went wide. Is that? Are those royal marks? You know what they are? Deho asked, surprised. I smuggle ancient artifacts, Kijun said. I've seen pictures in old books. Those marks haven't appeared on anyone in 3,000 years. He laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. You didn't just get yourself into trouble. Deho, you got yourself into history. Will you help us, or not? Kijun looked at the sky, where patrol ships were beginning to circle. He sighed. Get on board. But this makes us even. Understand? After this, you owe me. They ran up the ramp. Inside, the ship was cramped and smelled like oil and old metal. Kijun rushed to the cockpit and started the engines. Strap in. This is going to be rough. The Windrunner lifted off just as Vex and Korin reached the docks. Vex tried to grab the landing gear, but the ship rose too fast. Korin breathed fire at them, but the ship's shields held. They climbed into the atmosphere, and other ships began to pursue. Defense fleet vessels, military craft designed to stop smugglers and pirates. Alarms blared inside the cockpit. 3 ships on our tail, Kijun reported. 4 more coming from the east. They really want you back. Taemin clutched his seat, terrified. He'd never been in space before. Through the window, he could see the curve of his world, the red deserts and volcanic mountains that had been his entire universe. Deho sat beside him. It's going to be okay. How can you say that? Everyone wants to kill you because of me. I made my choice, Deho said. I don't regret it. But why? I'm nobody. I'm just a broken child that nobody wanted. Deho looked at him seriously. Where I come from, we judge people by what they do, not what they look like. You didn't ask for any of this. You deserve a chance to live your own life. The ship shook as weapons fire hit the shields. Kijun cursed and threw the ship into a sharp turn. Hang on. They dove between 2 pursuing ships, then climbed straight up. The Windrunner was old, but Kijun knew how to fly her. He twisted through space like a dancer, avoiding blast after blast. Finally, they reached the jump point. Engaging hyperspace in 3, 2, 1. The stars stretched into lines of light. The pursuing ships fell away. They were safe, for now. In the cockpit, a transmission came through. Kijun almost didn't answer it, but curiosity won. A face appeared on the screen. High Scholar Kyria. Looking calm, but deadly serious. Human Deho, she said. You have stolen property of immeasurable value to the Drakai Empire. Return the boy, and you will be granted clemency. Your life will be spared. Refuse, and every system in the galaxy will hunt you. There will be no safe harbor, no sanctuary. We will find you. Deho reached forward and cut the transmission without answering. Taemin looked at him with frightened eyes. Where can we go? Where in the galaxy? Will we be safe? Deho smiled, though his heart was pounding. There's one place the Drakai can't just attack. One place where they have to follow rules and laws. We're going to Earth. Earth. Taemin had heard of it. The human homeworld. A planet of water and green plants. A place so different from Drakkar Prime that he couldn't imagine it. It's a long journey, Kijun warned. 3 weeks in hyperspace. And even then, Earth might not protect you. It's our only chance, Deho said. As the ship raced through hyperspace toward the distant blue world, Taemin felt something strange. Hope. For the first time in his life, he felt hope. 3 weeks in hyperspace felt like forever to Taemin. The Windrunner was small, with only a few rooms and narrow corridors. There was nowhere to fly, nowhere to stretch his wings. But the worst part was the silence. On Drakkar Prime, there had always been noise. The rumble of volcanoes, the roar of furnaces, the shouts of crowds. Here in space, there was only the quiet hum of engines. Deho spent most of that time teaching Taemin about Earth and humans. He showed him pictures on a datapad. Blue oceans that stretched beyond sight. Green forests full of trees. Cities with buildings made of glass and steel instead of black stone. Rain falling from gray clouds. Waterfalls from the sky? Taemin asked, amazed. On Drakkar Prime, water was precious, pumped from deep underground. All the time, Deho said. Sometimes too much, but it makes everything grow. Taemin studied the pictures of humans. They looked so small and soft without scales or claws. How do your people survive? You have no natural weapons. Tround. Bye. We use our minds, Deho explained. We build tools. We work together. That's our strength. End quote. We build tools. We build tools. When they finally arrived at Earth, Taemin pressed his face against the window. The planet was beautiful, covered in swirls of white clouds, blue water, and green and brown land. He had never seen so many colors. Welcome to Earth, Kijun said as they entered the atmosphere. Try not to cause too much trouble on my planet. They landed in a massive city called Seoul District, in the Neo-Tokyo sector. Buildings rose into the sky like mountains of glass. Flying vehicles moved between them like schools of fish. Millions of people lived here, both humans and aliens from other worlds. As soon as they stepped off the ship, Taemin felt overwhelmed. The air was cool and damp, so different from the dry heat of his homeworld. Strange smells filled his nose. And there were so many humans, walking past without fear, talking and laughing. This way, Deho said, leading them through crowded streets. Some people stared at Taemin, his golden marks visible even under his hood, but nobody attacked them. They arrived at a building with guards outside. The guards wore dark uniforms and carried weapons. They saluted Deho. Commander Yoonji is expecting you, sir. Inside, they entered an office, where a woman sat behind a desk, covered in data screens. Commander Yoonji had short black hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. She wore a military uniform with medals on her chest. Deho, she said, standing up. You've been gone 5 years, and this is how you come back? With a Drakkar child carrying royal marks, and half the Drakkar fleet hunting you? I know how to make an entrance, Deho said with a weak smile. Yoonji walked around her desk and looked at Taemin carefully. How old are you, child? 12 cycles, ma'am, Taemin said quietly. And you have no family? No one who will miss you, Taemin shook his head. My family threw me away when I was born. They said I was cursed. Something softened in Yoonji's expression. Then welcome to Earth. We protect those who need protection here. She turned to Deho. But this won't be easy. The Drakkar Empire is already sending messages. They want him back. He'll die if he goes back, Deho said firmly. I know. That's why we're going to help. A few minutes later, a man entered. Dr. Hanbin wore a white coat and glasses. He was a scientist who studied alien biology. He looked at Taemin with fascination. Remarkable, he said. May I examine the marks? And Taemin looked at Deho, who nodded. Doctor. Hanbin pulled out a small scanner and passed it over Taemin's arms and chest. The device beeped and flashed. His eyes grew wider and wider as he read the results. This is incredible, Dr. Hanbin said. These marks aren't just decorative. They're genetic markers. They show a bloodline we thought was extinct. He turned to Yoonji. Commander, this child carries DNA that hasn't appeared in the Drakkar species for 3,000 years. What does that mean? Taemin asked. Dr. Hanbin pulled up images on a screen. Long ago, the Drakkar Empire was ruled by dragon queens. They were much more powerful than normal Drakkar. Bigger, stronger, able to breathe fire that could melt starships. They lived for centuries, and were wise rulers. What happened to them? Deho asked. They were assassinated, Dr. Hanbin said sadly. The warrior caste wanted power for themselves. They killed all the queens and destroyed their bloodline. Or so everyone thought. But this boy proves that the bloodline survived, hidden and forgotten until now. So Taemin is royalty? Deho asked. More than that, Dr. Hanbin said. He has the potential to become what the queens once were. As he grows older, his power will increase. Eventually, he could restore the Drakai Empire to its former glory, or destroy it completely, depending on how he chooses to use that power. The room fell silent as everyone understood the weight of those words. This small, frightened boy could change the entire galaxy. That's why they want him back, Yunji said. Not to kill him now, but to control him, to use his blood for their own purposes. Over the next few days, more bad news arrived. A Drakai fleet appeared in orbit around Earth. 50 warships, led by Executor Vrath himself. They didn't attack, but they didn't leave either. They just waited, blocking trade routes and threatening any ship that tried to enter or leave. Earth's Defense Council met to decide what to do. It was a large room full of politicians and military leaders, all arguing loudly. Some wanted to hand Taemin over, to avoid war. Others wanted to use him as a bargaining chip. A few thought they should help him, but worried about the cost. Deho was allowed to speak. He stood before the council, his voice strong and clear. All my life, I've watched the strong bully the weak. The Drakai look at us like we're nothing, like we don't matter. But here's what I learned as a soldier. Strength isn't about claws or scales. It's about protecting those who can't protect themselves. That boy asked for asylum. He came to us for help. If we turn him away, what does that make us? An old councilman stood up. Pretty words. But the Drakai fleet could destroy our orbital stations. Thousands could die. Is one alien child worth that risk? Yes, Deho said simply. Because if we abandon him, we prove the Drakai right. We prove that we're weak, not in body, but in spirit. And that's a weakness we can't afford. The council voted. It was close, but in the end, they decided. Taemin would be granted asylum. Earth would not surrender him. They would not start a war, but they would not back down either. When Taemin heard the news, he couldn't believe it. They're risking everything for me? Why? Because it's the right thing to do, Unji said. But now we need to prepare. The Drakai won't accept this decision quietly. She assigned a young soldier named Lieutenant Minho to help train Taemin. Minho was in his 20s, energetic and friendly. He taught Taemin how to fight like a human, using strategy instead of just strength. You're small now, Minho said during training. But Dr. Hanbin says you'll grow. Those marks mean power is building inside you. You need to learn to control it. They practiced in a training facility deep underground. Taemin learned to focus his fire breath, to fly with his twisted wings, to sense danger before it arrived. But the most important thing Minho taught him was confidence. You're not cursed, Minho said. You're special. Don't let anyone tell you different. During the nights, Taemin stayed in a small room in the military complex. Deho visited him every evening. They would sit and talk about nothing important: the weather, food, stories from Deho's travels. It helped Taemin feel less alone. One night, Taemin asked the question that had been bothering him. Deho, why did you really save me? You could have lived a safe, quiet life. Now you can never go back to your old life. Deho was quiet for a moment. When I was a soldier, I saw a lot of bad things. I saw what happens when good people do nothing. I swore that if I ever had the chance to make a difference, I would take it. You were that chance. But I'm not even human. Doesn't matter, Deho said. You were a child who needed help. That's all I needed to know. Duhar. 13. Taemin felt tears in his eyes. You're the first person who ever made me feel like I mattered. You do matter, Daeho said firmly. But peace didn't last long. One night, alarms blared through the complex. An intruder had gotten inside. Myung, the shadow assassin from Drakkar Prime, had somehow infiltrated Earth's defenses. She found Taemin's room and moved toward him with her knives ready. But Minho was on guard duty. He stepped between them, his weapon raised. You'll have to go through me, Minho said. Myung smiled coldly. Gladly. They fought in the corridor outside Taemin's room. Minho was well trained, but Myung was Drakai. Faster and stronger. She cut him across the chest, and he fell. Taemin heard the fight and ran out. He saw Minho bleeding on the floor, and something inside him snapped. Rage filled him, hot and powerful. The golden marks on his skin blazed with light. No more, Taemin said, his voice deeper than before. No more hurting people who protect me. Power erupted from him, not wild like before, but controlled. Golden flames surrounded him like armor. When Myung attacked, he caught her wrist and threw her back with strength that surprised both of them. Myung hit the wall hard and collapsed, unconscious. Guards rushed in and took her into custody. Medical teams carried Minho away. He would survive, but barely. Taemin stood in the corridor, shaking. The power faded, and he looked at his hands in wonder and fear. What am I becoming? Oh. Daeho arrived and put a hand on his shoulder. You're becoming who you were always meant to be. But you're still you. Taemin. The kind boy who doesn't want anyone hurt because of him. That won't change. But in orbit, Executor Vrath watched Earth through his ship's screens. He had given humanity enough time. Now he would take the boy by force, no matter how many had to die. Minho spent 3 days in the hospital recovering from his wounds. Taemin visited him every day, apologizing over and over, even though Minho told him to stop. You didn't stab me, Minho said from his hospital bed. She did. You actually saved my life by stopping her. But you got hurt protecting me, Taemin said miserably. That's my job, Minho said. And honestly, I'd do it again. You're a good kid, Taemin. Worth protecting. Those words helped, but Taemin still felt guilty. Everywhere he went, people suffered because of him. Daeho had lost his peaceful life. Minho almost died. The entire planet was under threat. How many more would be hurt? The changes in Taemin's body were getting worse. Every night, he woke up in pain as his bones stretched and reformed. His small, twisted wings began to grow larger and stronger. His stubby horns curved upward into an elegant shape. Most striking, his dull brown scales slowly turned golden, like precious metal. Dr. Hanbin monitored him closely. The Queen's blood is awakening, he explained. Your body is transforming into what it was always meant to be. The malformed appearance was just a dormant state, waiting for the right trigger. What was the trigger? Taemin asked. Near death, probably, Dr. Hanbin said. When that executioner tried to kill you, your body activated its survival mechanism, the royal bloodline defending itself. But the transformations hurt. Taemin tried to hide the pain, not wanting to worry anyone. At night, he would bite down on his pillow to keep from screaming as his body changed. Sometimes Daeho would hear him and sit beside his bed, not saying anything, just being there. That helped more than medicine. Meanwhile, Commander Yoonji dealt with the political nightmare. The Drakai fleet continued its blockade. Earth's trade routes were cut off. Food prices rose. People started to panic. The pressure to surrender Taemin grew every day. Then Myung woke up in her cell. Guards brought Commander Yoonji to question her. Why did the council send you? Yoonji asked. Myung laughed bitterly. You think they sent me to retrieve the boy? You're fools. Then why are you here? To kill him, Myung said. The council doesn't want him alive. They never did. Yoonji felt cold. But he carries the royal bloodline. he could restore their empire. Exactly, Myung said. That's why he must die. The council doesn't want a dragon queen to return. They want power for themselves. They plan to extract his blood before killing him, distribute it among the ruling families, all the power of the queens. But no single ruler to challenge them. That's monstrous, Eunji said. That's politics, Myung replied. The boy was never going to survive. Your human friend only delayed the inevitable. When Daeho heard this, rage filled him like he'd never felt before. He confronted Taemin in his room. Did you know? Daeho demanded. Did you know they were planning to kill you all along? Taemin looked at the floor. Yes. Why didn't you tell me? Because you saved me anyway, Taemin said quietly. For the first time in my life, someone thought I deserved to live. Even if you didn't know the whole truth, that moment meant everything to me. Daeho's anger melted away. He sat down heavily. You're angry because you care, Taemin said. Nobody ever cared before. They sat in silence for a while. Outside, the sun was setting over the city, painting the sky orange and purple, so different from the red skies of Drakkar Prime. What happens now? Taemin asked. Now we figure out how to end this, Daeho said. Before more people get hurt. Dr. Hanbin had an idea. He called a meeting with Yoonji, Daeho, and several military advisors. What if we expose the truth? And, he suggested, the common Drakai don't know what the council is planning. What if we tell them? How? Unji asked. We broadcast it, Doctor, Hanbin said. Hack into their communication network. Let Taemin speak directly to the Drakai Empire. Show them the royal marks. Tell them what the council planned to do. That could start a civil war among the Drakai, an advisor warned. Better than an actual war with Earth, Unji said. And if the Drakai Empire tears itself apart from the inside, they can't threaten us. It was risky, but it was their best option. They began preparing the broadcast. Taemin would speak to billions of Drakai across hundreds of worlds. The message would be simple. The council had betrayed the royal bloodline and needed to be held accountable. But they needed time to set everything up, and time was running out. Executor Vrath sent an ultimatum. A message appeared on every screen in the city. His scarred face filled the displays. Humans of Earth, Vrath said, you have 24 hours to surrender the child. If you refuse, I will personally lead an attack on your world. I will burn your cities. I will take what belongs to the Drakai Empire, by force, and the human called Daeho, the one who stole our property, I will kill him slowly while the whole galaxy watches. The city erupted in panic. People rushed to evacuate. The Defense Council held emergency meetings. Some demanded they surrender Taemin immediately. Taemin watched the message and felt sick. This was all his fault. I should go back, he told Daeho. I can't let people die because of me. Absolutely not, Daeho said firmly. But you heard him. He'll destroy the city. He'll kill you. Let him try, Daeho said. He smiled, but his eyes were serious. You can't fight a whole fleet. I won't be alone, Daeho said. Look around, Taemin. You think you're causing trouble? You're bringing people together. Humans who barely knew your name are willing to fight to protect you. That's not a burden. That's a gift. You showed us what we can be when we stand for something that matters. Taemin wanted to believe him, but fear still gripped his heart. That night, he couldn't sleep. He stood on the roof of the military complex, looking at the stars. Somewhere up there, Vrath's fleet waited to attack. Commander Unji found him there. She stood beside him quietly for a moment. Scared? She asked. Terrified, Taemin admitted. Good. Only fools aren't scared before battle. She looked at the stars. You know what's going to happen tomorrow? I won. War. Maybe, Unji said. Or maybe something the galaxy has never seen before. A dragon queen, rising not from the Drakai Empire, but from Earth, protected by humans who don't care about power or bloodlines, just about doing what's right. I don't feel like a queen, Taemin said. I feel like a scared child. All leaders start as scared children, Unji said. The question is what you do with that fear. Do you let it control you? Or do you use it to protect others? She put a hand on his shoulder. You have a choice tomorrow. You can hide, let others fight for you. Or you can stand up and show the galaxy what you really are. What if I can't control my power? Taemin asked. What if I hurt people? Then Daeho will stop you, Unji said simply. That's what family does. They keep you grounded when your power tries to lift you too high. Daeho is my family? The word felt strange. Taemin had never had family before. What else would you call someone who risks everything to protect you? Unji asked. After she left, Taemin stood alone on the roof for hours. The city spread below him. Millions of lights, representing millions of lives. All of them at risk because of him, but also because of a choice, the choice to protect someone weak instead of abandoning them. Maybe Daeho was right. Maybe this wasn't about him being a burden. Maybe this was about everyone choosing to be better than they had to be. The golden marks on his skin began to glow brighter. Deep inside, Taemin felt his power responding to his emotions. Not rage this time. Determination. When dawn came, Dr. Hanbin rushed into the command center. We're ready. The broadcast system is prepared. We can reach every Drakai world simultaneously. Do it, Unyi ordered. Across the galaxy, on hundreds of Drakai worlds, every screen suddenly showed the same image. A young Drakai boy, with golden marks, glowing on his skin, standing in front of a human flag. Taemin began to speak. His voice shook at first, but grew stronger. I am Taemin, born of the lost bloodline. I was cast out, deemed unworthy to live. The council sentenced me to death not for any crime, but for being born different. But a human, a species you call weak, risked everything to save me. Now, I know the truth. Your council fears what I represent. They do not want dragon queens to return. They want slaves, not rulers. He spread his wings, now larger and more beautiful than any pure-blooded Drakai's wings. I was saved by kindness, by courage, by a human who saw a child in need and chose to help. If there are Drakai who still remember the old ways, who honor the queens of legend, I ask you to stand with me. Stand for a future where power serves others, not itself. The broadcast ended. Silence fell across the galaxy. Then chaos erupted. On dozens of Drakai worlds, rebellions began. Soldiers questioned their orders. Colonies declared independence. The council's grip on power started to crack. But Executor Vrath, furious and humiliated, gave the order to attack. 50 warships descended on Earth like falling stars. The battle was about to begin. The alarm sirens screamed across every city on Earth. People ran for shelters while military forces scrambled to defensive positions. In orbit, 50 Drakai warships spread out in attack formation. Each ship was massive, built for conquest, armed with weapons that could crack continents. Earth's defense fleet launched to meet them. 200 smaller ships, human-made fighters and cruisers, rising to protect their world. They were outnumbered in firepower. But they had something the Drakai didn't expect. Determination born from defending home. In the military command center, Commander Unji watched tactical displays showing both fleets moving into position. All fighters, engage at will. Focus fire on their weapon systems. Don't try to destroy them, just disable them. Daeho stood beside her in a flight suit. You're letting me fly? You were a combat pilot once, Unji said. We need every skilled person we have. Besides, I know you won't stay on the ground while Taemin is in danger. Daeho smiled grimly. You know me too well. Kijun was already in his ship, the Windrunner, preparing for launch. Lieutenant Minho, released from the hospital against medical advice, climbed into a fighter cockpit. All across Earth, pilots young and old, prepared to defend their world. On the roof of the command center, Taman stood watching the sky. The golden marks on his skin pulsed with light. He could feel the power building inside him, begging to be released. Doctor, Hanbin had warned him this might happen. The royal blood responded to threats, to the need to protect, but Taman was afraid. Not of dying. He'd faced death before. He was afraid of what he might become if he let all that power loose. What if he turned into a monster? What if he hurt the people trying to protect him? You look troubled. Myong's voice came from behind him. Guards had brought her to the roof in chains. Unji thought she might provide useful tactical information. Why are you here? Taman asked. Because I'm a survivor, Myong said. And I recognize another survivor when I see one. You're afraid of your own power. Yes. Good, Myong said. Fear of power is the beginning of wisdom. It's the ones who aren't afraid who become tyrants. She looked at the sky, where explosions were beginning to bloom. The council never feared their power. That's why they're corrupt. But you, child. You fear becoming like them. That fear will keep you human. I'm not human. No. Myong agreed. But you were raised by one. That matters more than blood. In space, the battle began in earnest. Human fighters swarmed around the massive Drakai warships like insects attacking giants. Laser fire crisscrossed the void. Explosions lit up the darkness. Daeho flew his fighter with the skill of someone who'd never forgotten his training. He dodged a blast of Drakai fire, rolled his ship, and fired at a warship's weapon port. The shot hit perfectly, disabling one of the ship's main cannons. Nice shot, old man, Kijun's voice crackled over the radio. I'm not old, Daeho replied, grinning despite the danger. I'm experienced. But the Drakai ships were too powerful. For every weapon the humans disabled, the Drakai destroyed 3 human fighters. The defenders were fighting bravely, but they were losing. On the command deck of the lead Drakai warship, Executor Vrath watched the battle with cold satisfaction. Continue forward. Ignore the fighters. Our target is the surface. Find where they're hiding the boy, and burn everything around it. His ship's cannons charged, building energy for an attack that would devastate the city below. Nothing could stop it. Nothing human, anyway. On the roof, Taman felt his power surge. He could sense the threat, feel the death that was about to rain down on millions of innocent people. The golden marks blazed like miniature suns. I have to stop this, he said. You don't know if you can control it, one of the guards warned. I know, Taman said. But I have to try. He spread his wings, now magnificent and golden, and launched himself into the sky. He shot upward like a comet, faster than any ship, driven by power that had slept for 3,000 years. In his fighter, Daeho saw a golden streak rising from the planet. His heart clenched. No! Taman, what are you doing? But Taman couldn't hear him. The boy climbed higher and higher, until he reached the edge of space where the battle raged. The human pilots saw him and fell back, clearing a path. Taman hung in space, surrounded by death and fire, and felt the power inside him reach its peak. His body began to change. He grew larger, his scales spreading and hardening. His wings expanded to impossible size. Golden fire wreathed his body like armor. He was becoming what the Dragon Queens had been. Not just a Drakai, but something more. Something ancient and terrible and beautiful. The Drakai warships stopped firing, their crews staring in shock at what floated before them. This was no child. This was a legend made real. Taman's voice boomed across all frequencies, amplified by his power. I am Taman, of the royal bloodline. I did not choose this power. I did not ask to carry this burden, but I will use it to protect those who protected me. He flew toward Vrath's flagship. The ship fired every weapon it had. Missiles, lasers, plasma cannons. All struck Taman directly. The explosions were massive, bright enough to light up the planet below. But when the smoke cleared, Taman was unharmed. The golden fire around him had absorbed every attack. Impossible, Vrath whispered. Taman reached the flagship and grabbed it with claws that had grown as large as buildings. His strength was enormous. He began to tear the ship's weapons off one by one, ripping apart cannons and missile pods but being careful not to harm the crew inside. "I will not kill you," Taman said. "I am not like the Council. I am not like the Empire that threw me away. I was taught by humans that every life has value, even those who wish me harm." He moved to the next ship, then the next, systematically disabling the entire fleet. The Drakai warriors, the proud conquerors of 100 worlds, could only watch in awe and terror as a child they'd tried to execute became their judge. But Executor Vrath refused to surrender. He armed himself with ancient weapons, artifacts from the Queen's era, and flew out to face Tamin. In personal combat, they met between the stars, two beings of immense power. Vrath wielded blades, forged in volcanic fire. Taman had only his claws and his flames. "You are an abomination," Vrath snarled. "A broken child playing with power you don't understand." "I understand enough," Taman said sadly. "I understand that you're afraid. The Council taught you to fear change, to hate anything different. But fear is no way to live." They fought, and it was like watching gods battle. Their clash lit up the sky. On Earth, people emerged from shelters to watch the golden light dancing among the stars. But Vrath fought with hatred. Taman fought with purpose. There was no contest. Finally, Taman caught Vrath's blade between his claws and shattered it. He grabbed the Executor and held him suspended in space, helpless. "I could kill you," Taman said quietly. "You tried to kill me. You threatened everyone I care about. By the laws of your empire, I have that right." Vrath said nothing, waiting for death. "But I was saved by mercy," Taman continued. "A human showed me mercy when no one else would. So I will show you mercy too. Not because you deserve it, but because that's who I choose to be." He released Vrath and spoke loud enough for every Drakai in the fleet to hear. "Return to your worlds. Tell your people what you saw here. Tell them a dragon queen has returned. But she serves no empire. Tell them the old ways are dead, something new must rise." The Drakai fleet, defeated but not destroyed, began to retreat. They jumped to hyperspace, one by one, carrying news that would shake their civilization to its core. But Taman's transformation wasn't finished. The power kept building, kept trying to change him further. He could feel himself losing control, becoming something that might not be able to return to being the small boy he'd been. "Taman!" Deho's voice came through the comm. "Come back. You did it. Come back to us." "I don't know if I can," Taman said, and his voice sounded strange, echoing with power. "Yes, you can," Deho insisted. "You're stronger than this power. You're not just blood and destiny. You're the kid who asked why I saved him. You're the boy who cried when Minho got hurt. That's who you really are." Taman focused on that voice, on the memories of the past months. Deho teaching him about Rain, Minho showing him how to fight, Unji telling him he mattered, Dr. Hanbin explaining his heritage with excitement, Kijun grumbling, but helping anyway. These people had become his family. He couldn't lose himself and abandon them. Slowly, painfully, Taman began to shrink. The golden fire dimmed. His body returned to a more manageable size, though he remained larger and more powerful than before. The transformation stabilized. He descended back to Earth, landing on the roof where he'd started. His legs gave out, and he collapsed, exhausted, beyond measure. Deho landed his fighter nearby and ran to him. He knelt beside Taman and pulled the boy into a hug. "You scared me." "I scared myself," Taman admitted, his voice back to normal. "For a moment, I didn't know who I was. I know who you are, Deho said. You're my son, in every way that matters. Taman started crying, not from pain or fear, but from joy. He had never heard those words before. He'd never had anyone call him son. The days after the battle were busy. Across the Drakai Empire, civil war erupted as different factions fought for control. Some wanted to restore the council. Others wanted to bring back the Dragon Queens. Most just wanted peace. Taman received thousands of messages from Drakai across the galaxy. Some begged him to return and rule them. Some cursed him for destroying their empire. Some thanked him for showing them a different path. But Taman made a choice. He would not return to Drakkar Prime. He would not claim any throne. Instead, he would stay on Earth and help build something new. Under his guidance and with human help, Earth became a sanctuary for Drakai, who rejected the old empire's cruelty. Refugees arrived daily, seeking a place where power didn't determine worth. Commander Yunji worked with Taman to create a council where humans and Drakai made decisions together. Dr. Hanbin studied Taman's blood carefully, learning how it might help the Drakai species heal from centuries of decline, but refusing to exploit it for profit or power. Lieutenant Minho recovered fully and became Taman's personal guard, though mostly they just trained together and became good friends. Even Myong stayed. After the battle, she requested asylum on Earth. I've served cruel masters all my life, she explained. I'd like to see what it's like to serve a kind one. 6 months after the battle, on a cool evening in Seoul District, Deho and Taman sat on a rooftop watching the sunset. The sky turned orange and pink, colors that still amazed Taman after all this time. Do you regret it? Taman asked. Deho smiled. Simple is overrated. Besides, what father regrets? Having a son. I'm not really your son, Taman said quietly. Aren't you? Deho asked. Blood doesn't make family. Choice does. I chose to save you. You chose to trust me. We chose each other. Taman looked at his hands, still marked with the golden seals that would never fade. I carry the Queen's blood. People will always expect things from me. Let them expect, Deho said. You taught me something important. True strength isn't about power or bloodlines. It's about choosing kindness when the world demands cruelty. You had the power to destroy your enemies, but you chose mercy instead. That's what makes you worthy of those marks. Not the other way around. They sat in comfortable silence as stars began to appear. Somewhere in the galaxy, the Drakai Empire was still tearing itself apart, fighting over scraps of the old ways. But here on Earth, in a city where humans and Drakai lived side by side, something new was growing. A future where power served compassion instead of crushing it, where being different wasn't a death sentence, but a gift to be celebrated. Taman spread his golden wings, catching the last light of the setting sun. He was no longer the frightened child, kneeling on an execution platform. He was no longer the broken boy everyone wanted to throw away. He was Taman, saved by a human's courage and taught that mercy was stronger than any power. He was living proof that the smallest act of kindness could change the entire galaxy. Thank you, Taman said softly, for begging them to spare me, for teaching me what it means to be worth saving. Deho put his arm around the boy's shoulders. Thank you for teaching me what humanity really means. We save each other. That's what family does. As night fell over the city, they sat together, a human and a dragon queen, watching their new world shine with hope. The old empire might have fallen, but from its ashes, something better was rising, and it all started because one human begged them to spare a dragon boy, never realizing he carried not just a queen's blood, but the future itself.